اللهم صل على محمد. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and his pure, immaculate Ahlul Bayt. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. During the last few nights, we've been speaking about Tasawwuf, Sufism, or Irfan, and we've touched different areas of it, alhamdulillah. That's not to say that what the theologians say or believe is wrong. It's just another understanding of religion, at another dimension of it. I'm not trying to convince anyone of it, I'm just trying to share a new perspective, a perspective that many of you may have never encountered. And it's good to encounter these different perspectives, especially for you who live in the West. Inshallah, tonight I want to go through some of the articles of faith in our doctrine, the Aqaid, and speak on how the Sufis look on those articles of faith. Because they have a different perspective there too. Because in relation to death, Barzakh, heaven, hell, questioning of the angels, the Sirat, Mi'raj, Raj'at, Mahdawiyya, Messianism. Here, usually that line of thinking that we've all been told is that all these things will happen one day. Death will happen one day. Barzakh one day in the future. Heaven and hell one day in the future. Sirat one day in the future. When will the questioning of the angels? One day in the future. When will the Mahdi come? We don't know. One day in the future. And so on and so forth. When will Raj'at happen? One day. All these things, it's as if they're putting religion on credit. So here the youth can say, but what if it's all lies? You see, I mean, they're thinking rationally. You can't invite people to Islam. Tell them it'll happen one day. It's not the most rational of lines to take. But we see with the Urafa in all these things. Death right now. Barzakh right now. Heaven right now. The Sirat, it's here. Questioning of the angels right now. Mahdawiyya right now. All these things are happening right now, and we have to taste it after understanding it. So here we see there's two different approaches now. There's a big difference. It'll make a difference to our lives and how we act. So, inshallah, just seeing how ready you are, because we're starting very late tonight. And if I see you can take it, we'll go as much as we can cover. But I want to read words of Musibah also. I wanted to read it last night too, but it ended so late. But inshallah, we'll go through it. So let's start with death. Here, usually people regard death as something that will happen after, 80, 90, 100, 120 years or whatever. And that's it. Their understanding of death is just confined to that. The Urafa see death in another light, and they speak of us dying moment to moment in this realm, day after day. Now, before I explain what they mean, I just want to give a very quick classification of death. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this last time, but just in case I missed it out, I'll just mention this. Last time, I mean 2 years ago. Death, there are two types. There's the natural death and the forced death. The Urafo call death, or define death, as when the soul becomes independent from the physical body. Independent from what? In what regard does the soul become independent? They say in perfection. So for example, someone acquires a level of perfection, and then with this physical body, no longer can they acquire more perfection with this physical body. They become independent from the body and physical death arises. Now this applies to both believers and non-believers. With believers, it's when the soul acquires perfection in virtue. And then they reach a stage where knowledge becomes static, actions become static, and they no longer can acquire further perfection with this physical body. They die, i.e. the soul becomes independent from this body. It can't acquire any more perfection in virtue. With the non-believers though, the same principle holds, but it's perfection in vice. So here, someone commits evil, keeps on committing evil, they'll reach a stage where they no longer can perform more perfection in evil with this physical body. Knowledge becomes static for them to do more evil, actions become static for them to do more evil, and they no longer can be more perfect in evil with this body, they die. The soul becomes independent from the physical body. That's natural death. With forced death, either it's forced death in ourselves, by ourselves, or by others. By others is when you become martyred, for example. They've killed you. That death was forced upon you. I'll speak about that in a minute. Or we did ourselves. Either our lifestyle led to us the excess, for example, cholesterol, diabetes, all that kind of thing. It led to us eventually dying. Or our sins led to us living a shorter life. Sometimes some actions prolong one's life. A good lifestyle prolongs one's life. But in forced death, a bad lifestyle or sins can lead to that death. It's a death that you forced upon yourself. Although with non-believers, the sins don't qualify anymore. In relation to non-believers, sins don't shorten their life, but the negative lifestyle will. In relation to forced death by others, the Imams, for example, and most prophets, but with the Imams, the 14 Ma'sumin, Imam Sadiq has a tradition where he says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا إِلَّا مَقْتُولٌ أَوْ مَسْمُوعٌ. In relation to us, we were either killed or poisoned. Okay? And most prophets were killed. Because if they weren't killed or they weren't poisoned, we believe they would live continuously. Immortality is theoretically possible in Islam, and they wouldn't die. The reason that we believe prophets and even the Imams that they will die, because we have traditions on the last day and eventually everyone will die. Otherwise, theoretically, immortality is possible. And with these, medicine is going in that direction. If brain transplants, if the technology becomes perfect one day, maybe. But they would continue to live. They would never die. Why? Because the route to Allah is infinite. Their knowledge, their actions never become static. They just continue. They would never reach an end because the road to Allah has no end. And they would continue to live. Anyway, so either you look at death as something that will happen one day, a physical death, but then the Urfa, with the help of traditions from the Ahlul Bayt, in relation to one particular tradition from the Holy Messenger, who says, Mutu qabla an tamutu. Die before you die. Now these two dies, they can't both be in relation to physical death, because that wouldn't make sense. Die a physical death before you die a physical death. So it must be different now. The Urfa don't make up things. They analyze more deeper the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, the verses of the Quran. The Imams say the Quran, the verses have infinite number of meanings. The Urfa go towards them. They may not reach it, it's okay. And if they do reach a few things according to standard principle, they say maybe this is the meaning of it. Only the Ma'sumin can give that 100% knowledge in relation to the inner esoteric meanings of the Holy Quran and traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. Mutu qabla an tamutu. Die a spiritual death before you die a physical death when you're 80, 90 or 100 years old. Make sure you undergo the spiritual death before physical death overcomes you. And what's spiritual death? Death is that transition from one realm to a higher realm. And actually in physical death, when we die, we automatically become detached from the worldly life. The I persists though. It goes to Barzakh, a more immaterial realm. It's semi-immaterial. There's color, shape, size, but there's no physical matter anymore. From Barzakh onwards, it's all semi-immaterial according to the Urfa. Die a spiritual death. Ascend to a higher realm to see the truths of Allah and religion. See something before you die a physical death. Because you take heaven with you to the next realm. You reap what you sow. Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. The world is the hereafter's farmyard. It has to be acquired here. You want to taste the truths of religion. Man kana fi hadhihi a'ma fahuwa fil akhirati a'ma. But those who are blind in this world, they're going to be blind in the hereafter. That blindness doesn't mean a physical blindness. They're blind, they're action free. They never accumulated anything. They never tasted anything in this world. I'm not saying they're not going to go to heaven, but it's going to be a minimum. Our potential is much more. أَعِنْدَهُ إِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ فَهُوَ يَرَى. Does one have knowledge of the unseen so that he sees? That seeing isn't the same seeing that animals have, that physical seeing. So we want to see whilst in this world. We want to taste religion. And that's what undergoing a spiritual death undergoes. Seeing the metaphysical beyond this physical realm. It's important. Then Islam gives another code. The holy Imam says, one of the Imams say, An-nawmu akhul maut. Sleeping is the brother of death. Because physical death and physical sleeping, they share one common mechanism. Because when we sleep, we automatically, like in physical death, when we sleep, we automatically become detached from the worldly life. And we ascend to Barzakh and immaterial realms, Muslim or non-Muslim. In those immaterial realms, you receive divine knowledge, everyone. That reception of divine knowledge in Islam we call dreaming. The reception of immaterial divine knowledge. The soul then converts that into pictures, what we call in the West dreams. But dreaming, the essence of it in Islam is that hunting down of that divine data, when you detach from the worldly life. In death, it occurs automatically. In sleep, we all become detached from the worldly life. The eye ascends. It doesn't ascend to a place. There's no place the eye is going. It's an inner journey of the soul. It's not elevation in space. That has no value. All these people with Apollo, they've gone, for example, on the moon and higher. Do they become spiritual people? وَرَفَعَنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا, in relation to Prophet Idris. We elevated him, we raised him a high makan. This makan doesn't mean a physical place. It's an elevation in rank, makana, not makan. He elevated in rank. Prophet Idris, alayhi salam, he was a prophet, Nabi. Then he was raised in rank because he went into ghaiba, occultation. When he came, he was still here in this world, in the flesh. He was in this world, but in heaven, makanan aliyah. When he came out of occultation, he was called the Rasul after that. And his name was Ilyas. We have both names in the Quran. It's the same person. After occultation, there's an increase in rank. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he's also, right now, he's here in the flesh. He's in ghaiba. All prophets underwent ghaiba. Because being ghaib is being a manifestation of one of Allah's attributes. Al-ghaib. Allah has that attribute. He's also somewhere in the world, in the flesh. And the traditions say he's in the 4th level of heaven. It's okay. You can be in this world and be in heaven at the same time. Heaven isn't outside you. It's a dimension of the soul. Man is an extended creature from an earthly dimension to immaterial dimensions. The eye is an extended creature. It has many dimensions to it. We're now occupied in the physical. When we sleep, we see some elements of Barzakh. This journeying is all a journey of the eye. Heaven, hell, they're all dimensions of the eye, as we spoke about 2 days ago. It's all tajassumul a'mal. This elevation is an elevation of rank. I forgot where we were. So, an-nawmu akhul maut. Sleeping is the brother of death, because in sleeping too, that which occurs with death occurs with sleep too. What? We become detached from the worldly life. If that happens, that is the key to ascend spiritually. You have to detach from the worldly life. And we spoke how we have to do that. The whole aim is to do that when we're awake in this world. It's too late if it's after death. Sleep, it's practicing that ascension. Every time we sleep, it's a program, a divine program, that you are now going to ascend. Prepare yourself. Then we see the Sharia says before sleep, do wudu. Before sleep, recite salawat. Before sleep, recite these surahs of the Quran. Why? Wants to prepare you for this journey, this ascension when you're sleeping. And some people can even experience all this, see heaven, see Barzakh, and so on and so forth, whilst awake. Like Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Idris alayhi salam. Whilst awake, they can detach from the worldly life. For them, it's not, there's no need to have to sleep or to die, because they can detach from the worldly life whilst awake. Okay. Then we speak on Barzakh. Barzakh also, it's one dimension of the eye. This dimension, though, is more immaterial now. It's semi-immaterial. We usually think of Barzakh as happening after death. When we die, we'll all go to Barzakh. But we can have access to Barzakh right now, access to one dimension of the self. We can journey to that dimension and see Barzakh now. It exists right now because you're existing. Barzakh, heaven, hell, they're all products of your actions. My Barzakh is different to yours, to yours, to yours, and so on and so forth. It exists right now. Heaven exists right now. Hell exists right now, depending on your actions. From moment to moment, you're building your hereafter. And it's all in your own hands. How does it differ to dreams? There are two forms of dreams. Sometimes you become so occupied during the day with the worldly life, at work, at home, and so on and so forth. The brain, because of that mental occupation of how you behave during the day, there was no Allah in the picture, for example. There, the brain plays with you. It's a construct of the brain. The brain recalls the things that happened, puts a few images together, and then you see it. That's not what we want in sleeping. Animals may have that too. We want to sleep in a manner different to animals. But if we detach ourselves, the more we detach ourselves during the day, and we spoke about that yesterday, detachment doesn't mean leading a monastic life. It's having everything, but doing it Allahfully. You're just filling your heart with Allah at work, at home, at studies, at the football ground, and so on and so forth. All these are okay, it doesn't matter. It's your take on them. If you detach yourself, therefore, from the worldly life during the day, that will allow you to have access, not with mental products of the brain that you see in sleep, but to your Barzakhi dimension. And there you see many things. Some people see snakes, for example. Some people see dogs. Some people see angels. The snake, the dog, is you. Did you sting someone during the day? Did you hurt someone during the day? Did you bite someone during the day? Did you steal? Did you cheat? All actions are embodied in Barzakh and beyond. We have one tradition that says that look at animals, because your actions, when embodied, they'll be embodied as animals. The sins especially. We're humans. Now let's say we keep on biting people and it becomes second nature. That's going to be embodied in Barzakh. That's going to be embodied in heaven and hell. And then you see snakes coming to bite you. Now in your dreams, you wake up. But in Barzakh onwards, there's no waking up. You'll get stung. And okay, there's no physical matter in Barzakh. But pain is much more in the immaterial realm than in this realm. Pain and joy are limited in this realm. Pain and joy are much less limited in Barzakh and limitless in heaven and hell. That's why we see in the traditions, heaven, when it speaks of heaven, there's no going to the lavatory, there's no sleep, there's no being tired. These sleeping, being tired, going to the lavatory and so on and so forth, these are side effects and limits and weaknesses of this physical realm. But in heaven and hell there is no physical aspect to it. These things are non-existent. If there's going to be pain, the pain's going to be much more. If there's going to be joy, the joy will be much more. Moment to moment, how you're acting. You're building your Barzakh, you're building your hereafter. Tajassumul a'mal. Now the traditions speak of iron rods going in the corpse in Barzakh. The traditions speak of the milk that you breastfed at birth will be sucked out of your brain. And some people regard it as physical events that will happen. But be rest assured, every grave you open, the corpse is there, nothing is happening to it. There's no iron rods, there's no milk coming out. See, there are no scorpions when you open the grave, there's no spiders. That's in an immaterial realm. Nothing to do with the physical realm. After this, it's finished now. It's now you in a higher dimension of yourself. The reason why we give a lot of respect to the dead and we do kafan and so on and so forth, one of the reasons is because many people, when they die, it takes time before they realize they are no longer in association with that physical body. They're so absorbed they were so absorbed, they still think it's them, that physical body, they still think it's them. And they get hurt when you treat the physical body badly. So the Sharia grants utmost respect to even the corpse. You wash it and everything, and then you take it, and it has a number of etiquettes that have to be abided by. Okay. Then we come to the questioning of the angels. So you see, the whole point is you put everything on credit, say it will happen. But if your outlook is, I have an effect on my barzakh right now, as I'm speaking, as I'm eating, as I'm working, studying, moment to moment. As long as everything is done lawfully, Allah is always in the equation. That's fine for everything, from the bedroom to the kitchen, leaving the house. There's a door for everything. Now if you can't memorize the door, at least recall Allah. Then we come to the questioning of the angels. What are angels? Sheikh Tusi says Iblis is an angel. Then suddenly some scholars say, well, how can Iblis be an angel? The Quran says, Kana min al-jinn. He was one of the jinns. Don't you think Sheikh Tusi of all people had seen that verse of the Quran? You have to see what angels mean. When you look in the words of the Quran, before you take the technical meaning, see what the literal meaning is. Some people believe malaika comes from uluka, which means power. So whatever is in possession of power becomes one of the malaika, be it humans, be it jinns, be it angels in the technical sense. But what are angels? Are they immaterial beings? Or are they semi-immaterial beings? Semi-immaterial beings, there's color, size, shape, number, division. It's like what we see in our dreams. There's no physical matter though. Or are angels totally immaterial beings? Not even the color, size, shape. If we take angels to the purely immaterial realm, then there's no number there. You can't have 10 angels, for example, or 20 angels in a realm which is purely immaterial. There, it's one thing. It's one. It's purely immaterial. It's numberless, timeless, placeless. It's one reality there. If that one reality is channeled in providing knowledge in a given manner, we call that one reality Jibreel. If it's channeled towards providing sustenance, we call that one reality Mikael. But there's no number in the purely immaterial realm. So when Lady Maryam alayha salam فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا, when Archangel Gabriel appeared before her as a human being, well-proportioned man. That man was Archangel Gabriel. It wasn't physical though. But it was Archangel Gabriel, but in a semi-immaterial realm, the Barzakhi realm of Lady Maryam. She saw Archangel Gabriel as a man in her Barzakh. That Archangel Gabriel was a result of her soul's mi'raj, was a product of her soul. It's like when I dream, my partner, for example, doesn't see what I'm seeing in my dream, because those dreams are a product of my soul. If we were there with Lady Maryam, both of us awake, we wouldn't have seen that man, Archangel Gabriel, because it wasn't something physical.